Everybody, welcome back to another episode of the Immersive Con podcast. Today I'm joined by Omayr. Omayr, thanks so much for being here.
Of course.
What's funny about this is you were originally supposed to be like episode 12 or 13 or something. And
Yeah,
now you're actually, I think you might, oh, okay, yeah. Might be episode 115 or something like that, 116. So,
nice.
yeah. Something I was listening to recently was it was Robert Greene actually. He was talking about how one of the best pieces of advice he received was something about watching the grass grow. And what that meant was just being patient about things because a lot of things in life take time. And one of the best things that you can develop is being able to watch the grass grow.
No, I think that's something definitely that we should all think of. And like for me personally, being Muslim and stuff, one of the biggest things we learn is sabr, which is patience. And then I have like instances in my life where I knew that being patient was better. So like growing up, I would always want something immediately. My mom's like, "Nah, let's like you need to learn patience." We wait for things to happen certain ways. Like let's say you want a video game right now, let's get good grades first, earn it, and then you see the fruits of your labor. And then during quarantine, for instance, like trading, I was trying to trade stocks and options, and um, I would buy something and then I'd panic sell or FOMO buy. But I was like, okay, no, I need patience here too because not everything happens instantly. And then now, like in being in school, like going through all this training, especially third year, where we do rotations all the time, and I want to see like the results immediately. Like I started this rotation, why am I not adequate enough to be not a burden on the floor? But then we learned that you need to actually put in the work and then slowly watch the grass grow.
What is FOMO buy? I've never heard that term before.
It's like if let's say you were watching a stock, or even if you weren't, and then you suddenly see it blowing up or a crypto, and you're supposed to buy at the low and sell at the high. That's how you make the profit. But now it's already at the high, and now you're having FOMO because all those people that bought down there are making profit, and so you FOMO buy in, hoping it goes even higher, but it's already high. So it's more likely gonna go down than it is gonna go keep going up. So that's FOMO buy, even though you know that's not the smart thing to do because it already blew up.
Yeah. I remember for the longest time, FOMO didn't get to me. FOMO in general, it just wouldn't get to me. But a few weeks ago, I remember like really feeling it. FOMO. Do you have experience with FOMO these days?
Depends. What kind of FOMO are you asking about?
In general, with anything, really.
Yeah, I think I'm a chronic FOMO a patient. Just everything honestly for the last like 7, 8 years, it's like if I know my friends are having a hangout and I have something crucial the next day or I have to study, I'm like I can't though, I have FOMO, so I go. Um and I don't know, honestly, it might be like a component of ADHD or something, but I think I have a lot of FOMO and but as I've gotten older, though, I've realized, like, as you get more responsibilities, you can't just you start to see that, you have other things that need your attention and time and commitment. So the FOMO gets a little less. But yeah, I do think there's a lot of FOMO in my life.
My uncle once said, I took too much tension, so I lost my tension, or I forgot about my tension. And what he was essentially saying was he had a problem that was really stressing him out,
Hmm.
but something else more severe needed his attention. So he had to deal with it. And in doing that, he forgot about what he was
Yeah.
originally so bugged out about. And I see that with FOMO because what you said right there with responsibilities. I feel like when you have responsibilities and obligations, your full focus just kind of goes there. And any FOMO that's left over, it just kind of evaporates by itself.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's why people feel that they lock in harder when they procrastinate and now suddenly the essays due tomorrow and not in a week. It's because you all your attention away from everything else.
Sorry, you just chopped out for a second. What did you say?
Oh, it's just like an example of that is the when people put off an essay till the last day, and now it's like this is make or break. You got to do this. It's due tomorrow. It's not due in a week anymore, and now you forget about everything else. And I think that's a good example of what you said. And also when like people say when you make lists of to-dos for the day, put the hardest tasks first, because then those when you're doing those hard tasks, you're like so locked in, you forget about the easy ones. And then later at the end of the day, when you have a bunch of easy ones, you can just quickly knock them out.
That's something I wanted to talk to you about, deadlines and deadlines in medical school. How how much more intense is it in medical school? What have you learned about dealing with deadlines with that experience?
So it's actually funny because third year we started with a course. It was like a orientation course for 2 weeks, and I honestly didn't take it that seriously because it was just like in my head it was just syllabus week. But there were quizzes and assignments we had to do, and because I didn't take it that seriously, I missed all those deadlines, and then I had to end up remediating the orientation course. And during that, the lady was telling me how like I hope this was a good lesson that third year is not as forgiving with rotations. You have 6 weeks of one rotation, and like you have to get everything done by deadlines, um, or else like you could fail the course. And remediating an orientation course, that's whatever, but remediating a rotation, that's a pretty big deal and can affect your residency applications. And so I was like, sure, actually, honestly, like let me not be angry and a hater for having to go through this. Let me actually see if she's onto something. So during the year, I had like an Excel sheet where I would, for instance, like every rotation was different, but let's say I am internal medicine had the most assignments. I like put by week which assignments were due by that at the end of that Friday of that week. And so I would go through and like check them off as I did them, and then periodically check that to see what was due next week or if I could get ahead on anything. And honestly, it was really helpful. It really helped with a lot of stress, helped me get all my assignments done on time. Didn't have to do that, what I mentioned earlier with the last night of essay writing procrastination. I didn't have to deal with that because I was getting ahead of stuff just with that organization. So that helped with deadlines and stuff. But for deadlines themselves, I think med school has shown you how important they are in general, just because, yeah, some deadlines might be subjective, like assignments and stuff, but other deadlines, like when you have to get something to a patient, that isn't subjective. Like this patient needs an antibiotic at this time, like it has to be done. Or their sodium's low, they have to get the sodium done. It's not like something you put off, you know? So that's another thing that I've learned.
Yeah, that last part you mentioned is very fascinating because my relationship with deadlines, as I've seen it, is if this is something really important for someone else, then I need to get it done by that deadline. But if it's setting a deadline for myself and it's just only me, it's as if I treat it with a lot more procrastination. I don't take it as seriously, which is strange because they say, think about yourself as someone that you would take care of. And
Exactly.
so, with that concept and deadlines, it's something I've been thinking about a lot. I'd read a Tim Ferriss community post about a month ago or something, and he was also discussing deadlines, and he was sharing that so many of us, we take so long about a thing because we think that the more time we'll give it, the better the better we'll be able to put into it or something like that. But he was saying that that's more of an imagination because the shorter the deadline, whatever performance you give that thing, that objective, that task, is going to be more or less the same as if you took a really long time to complete it. And that was a really enlightening thing for me to read about.
Hmm. Yeah, honestly, your first point, I think, yeah, it's like kind of anti-selfish of us to not consider ourselves and help ourselves when it comes to treating ourselves. And then yeah, I just think, it's like people think that they put more effort in just because it's like the placebo of the adrenaline that we get, and the adrenaline, like physiologically helps you lock in. And so
I
you
like that
think
bit of language, placebo adrenaline.
yeah, yeah, no, literally, like this is my hypothesis, but that's why like coffee will help you lock in. It's the same as Adderall with ADHD. This is all med school stuff, but when your sympathetic system goes up, like your fight or flight, then you lock in. And so that's what adrenaline works is increases fight or flight. And so coffee is like a mild form, it's a mild stimulant, right? So that's why it helps you focus. And so that's why I'm thinking when you're procrastinating and now suddenly it's due in an hour, your adrenaline's kicked up and you're focused and you're like, okay, yeah, I'm giving this my full attention, and then that's why the quality is so high. But if you know people who are prescribed Adderall or some or have used it for focus, like you understand it doesn't really help the quality of it, just makes them feel in the moment. But then later when they're feeling the effects, like the withdrawal effects, they realized that their work wasn't even all that good and they didn't really benefit much learning from it, even if they were able to get stuff done. And that's the same with if you wait an hour for like the if you do it in the last hour and you think your quality is higher, you just feel it just feels like that because you're just so locked in. But like you said, if you spread it throughout the week and you gave it the same amount of attention but just spread out, then the quality goes up because now every day that you look at that project, you come at it with a different perspective. And so now
Wow.
you know what I'm saying? Yeah, so that I mean that's one thing I do with my studying is what do I do with my studying? Because I've done this before, I forgot what it was, but it's just like I'll or actually not even studying. I'll do it with my studying too. Like if I'm writing an essay, the next day I'll come back and read it again. I'm like, is this really what I wanted to write? But another thing I do is with my shopping, you know? If you're online shopping, you don't want to just spend money left and right. You buy something and then I won't buy it immediately. I'll revisit it in 2 or 3 days. Be like, okay, this is like a 2 day older mind brain. This is like a new me, essentially. So do I still want this product? Or do I still want to write this essay this way? And yeah, that's just something like I think it increases quality when you spread stuff out. But of course, it comes back down to time management, and it's hard to do that these days. It's just you have so much always going around. Time management is hard.
And I really like what you said there. That is very powerful. There's a lot to talk about there. But the first thing I wanted to ask you is how much coffee do you drink in a day? How many cups?
Bro, I was super anti-caffeine, but honestly, it just got really hard with like the early morning shifts and third year was probably the hardest year ever in my life. Honestly, for a lot of people, it's the hardest year. And for me, it was just really bad because it's like you work 8 to 10 hour shifts every day, and then after you're done, you have to go study for another 2, 3 hours, or else you're not going to do well on the test because these tests were incredibly difficult. And that's like like for me, like the first 2 years of classroom studying, it was easy peasy. Like you study during the day 2, 3 hours, and then after 5, 6 weeks, you take the test, and it's honestly not a bad test. But these tests were impossible, and it was on top of working all day. So my caffeine went up a lot this year. But even then, I know like the long-term negatives of caffeine, because like I mentioned earlier, it's a stimulant, increase heart rate, increase all these fight or flight stress hormones. So I try to limit. If I drink an energy drink, I'll drink like a V8 Splash, which is like a maximum 80 to 100. Or if I drink one of those big ones, I only drink half of it, and then either save the rest or throw it away. And then I know like one black coffee a day is healthy for you. So I'll stick to one black coffee. And then in the afternoon, if I'm tired, I'll take a quick power nap and then use that as my caffeine. But I try to like I've tried really hard to limit my caffeine just because I know it becomes an addiction. But however, like right now I'm in the phase where I drink it every day, 1 cup. So I do have like the days I don't drink any, like on weekends, I am extremely tired. So like right now I was studying because I'm in my step two dedicated now. So it's like studying 6, 7 days a week. So like weekends, I don't have weekends anymore, so coffee every day. So this is what this was for. Otherwise, I wouldn't drink coffee for like a Zoom call or something that doesn't require 4 or 5 hours of attention.
So outside of caffeine, this rigorous routine, what do you think, in your personal experience, is the best way to lock in?
Honestly, I think unfrying your dopamine receptors. So I've tried this multiple times and failed, but deleting your social medias and like for us Muslims, praying is a form of meditation. So if you can prolong your prayers or read the Quran or even outside of doing that, just meditate on your own. I think that helps a lot because your brain calms down and your dopamine receptors don't need active firing 24/7. And so, even though I've tried multiple times and failed, I think that's one of the best things you can do is outside of caffeine is deleting all that and becoming like just a more calm individual. And I have friends like this who I look up to that do this, where when you're talking to them, they have full attention to you. And then even when you're done talking and you look away, everyone looks away, everyone goes on their phone, they'll still like sit there and just I don't know what they think or what they're looking at, but they don't feel the need to pull out their phone or quickly turn their brain to something else. And I think that will help later when you're studying. You don't your brain isn't getting distracted, you're locked in. Um, that's one thing I think that can help with focus. And then another thing that I'm trying now that rotations are over and I just have to study is once I'm done studying every day is going to work out. Because I know working out increases blood flow throughout your whole body. It literally forms new blood vessels throughout your body. So your brain's always getting oxygen, your body doesn't feel as fatigued. And so you don't feel tired and that helps you focus. So I think those are two big things is trying to cut out these dopamine activating things such as constant social media or doom scrolling on TikTok and then working out or exercise.
Do you have any experience with your dopamine shooting up when you do pray, specifically when you're making dua?
Um, For dua, I'd say it's more doing it during Ramadan or Tahajjud, just because that atmosphere of spirituality makes you feel closer to Allah. Otherwise, for me, I do I make dua 24/7, like after every prayer or at night or like after a session of Quran. So those are more, I would say for me, just like so they're so like what's the word? Habitual for me now that they're not as deep as like if I would do it in Tahajjud or if in Ramadan. But what did you ask before that?
About
Oh,
dopamine.
yeah, so prayer, yeah. So as you know, like we all have waves of iman. Sometimes you're at a wave iman, high iman, low iman. But yeah, at one point I was feeling this before I got really busy. This was during my elective, 6 weeks of electives. Um, is that I I went to a talk about avoiding burnout by Sheikh who was it? Abdul Nasir Jangda. And he mentioned how prayer, so essentially avoiding burnout is taking breaks. And then he told us as Muslims, we have this amazing built-in break that we get 5 times a day. And so when it's time to take a break from your flashcards and studying or your practice problems or even your work at work and it's time to go pray Dhuhr or pray Asr or pray Maghrib after eating dinner or something, that you don't look at that as, oh, I have to go pray one of my 5 obligatory prayers. You look at it as, okay, let me cut everything out. It's literally just me and Allah now. I'm not stressed about my work. I'm not stressed about my homework, not stressed about my studying. It's just me and Allah. I'm talking to him for 5 minutes. That's it. Let me cut everything out. No family, no stress is nothing. And so that was like that elective time was shortly after this talk, so I implemented that. And I was honestly like, honest to God, I was feeling the dopamine. Like I was looking forward to prayer times. I'm like, oh, the adhan's here, let's go. I like put everything down and I started praying. And it was like, okay, yeah, it's just like in my head, imagination, everything around me just fading away. It's me and the throne of Allah in front of me. And so that was one instance where I did feel the dopamine from prayer. It's just when you imagine it as it's not something you have to do. It's the time Allah is telling you, you know what, it's time to relax, come back to me.
Yeah. Something I realized for myself was I'd pray, but then the duas would kind of just be the same old, and all right, I'm done, I'm leaving. But then I started recognizing that the importance of making dua is you're actually sitting there and you're actually thinking about what you really want. And when
Yeah.
I'm in that state, like I'm usually calm, but sometimes I wonder, like, do I get excited? And
Hmm.
maybe it's more addictive to come back if you do get excited.
Yeah.
But I know, for example, that there's been many instances where if I took an exam and I got a good grade, I get like really excited, like, oh man, I'm like on another level. And then if I did poorly, I'd be going into the lows. But what I recognized was the best response for whether you did good or bad is to just stay calm, stay grounded.
Hmm.
What is your experience like with that in medical school?
With like good or bad grades.
Yeah,
It's
like
just
not allowing the results to sway your emotions so much, staying calm and grounded.
so I know like arrogance isn't it's not a good thing. We avoid arrogance. And this isn't so much arrogance, but more self-confidence. But that's one thing I think of is when I do get a bad grade or something, I'm like, okay, am I really gonna let this one bad grade hold me back? Like, let me look at all these other good grades I've gotten, or the fact that I'm even in medical school. And that's like you just hype yourself up, you know? And so you tell yourself, okay, bro, like relax. There's one bad grade. You're still in med school. You're becoming a doctor. Like it's lock in for the next test. Don't let this like. And not everyone's gonna win 24/7. Like even the best sports players never had a 100% win rate. So ignore this loss. If you found something like, did you do something that made you get this bad grade? If so, fix that and lock in for the next one. So that's something I personally employ. And then, like I said, the religion thing. So whether it's a good result or a bad result, alhamdulillah, either way. Because when you get a good result, say Alhamdulillah that it's because of Allah you got it. And when you get a bad result, you say Alhamdulillah because, for instance, when you don't have money, you look at people poorer than you, not richer than you. So you look at the fact that, again, you're in medical school. Allah got you this far, that the fact that you're even in the position to do bad on this test is because Allah answered your du'as from 4 years ago of getting into medical school. So just always remember that, and it helps you get over the losses or the downs, and uh it helps you learn from them, but also helps you focus on the highs to, you know what, let me achieve that high again, so let's lock in.
Let me achieve that high again. I like that. The world is a very beautiful place, but it can also be dark and deadly. I know everybody has a different experience, but I had a friend, also, another friend in medical school, who was talking to me about how he encountered a lot of backstabbers who were trying to sabotage him, trying to set him on fire. If you don't mind me asking, do you have experience with cutthroats out there, and how do you navigate that?
Yeah, so they're called gunners in medical school. And honestly, like I've heard stories and stuff, and I know some programs are like that. I won't name them, but like it makes sense because they usually accept higher like if they're like the higher rated med schools, and because of that, like just their personalities are, these people are like they're out to win. And so I think that's one thing that contributes to gunner mentality. For me personally, UTMB is like one of the chillest med schools ever. My class at least has been very supportive of each other 24/7, like every single person. I've had like maybe one or two experiences with gunners. And honestly, even then, like it was just like where they were shooting me down in front of faculty or something. But one thing like I did that helped me in the moment was like I legit brushed it off as a joke. Like when they were shooting me down, it's just like like when you get made fun of, um if you don't get defensive, if you show off that like confidence, that makes people like understand that, first of all, he's not someone you can just easily shoot down, and then second of all, other people see that, oh, he doesn't let it get to them. So that was like just the way I responded in that moment. I think it helped, but even then, like when I look at the person who did do the gunning, like I legit just think they didn't have the social cues to realize what they were doing. Uh, and they were just like they just didn't understand that those kind of jokes in front of faculty aren't funny, and they're making me look bad. So I don't think they were like actively trying to harm me. They just didn't realize. And even then, that's just like how I responded, and I think people should respond. The other cutthroats, like people who actively try to sabotage you, I guess just look out for them. If you find someone, avoid them. Like if you find someone who's feeding you bad info for what's going to be on the test, or if they're giving you study guides that are wrong, just like realize, and you're like, okay, you know what? Like just don't associate with this guy ever again. Like why would I give this gunner attention? They can go gun all they want. It can get you so far in life. Like people will, resident, like when you rotate, residents and attendings will see, like they'll notice that this one student is like interrupting other students and like testing other students, or making them, when the other student goes to do something, they'll trash talk that student to the other residents and faculty. Like they're not dumb, they're doctors too, they can see that. So you're only going to hurt yourself if you're a gunner. So that's just my advice for gunners.
I loved your response, and especially that part about brushing it off like a joke.
Yeah,
Because isn't that such a powerful thing? I've experienced with that as well. Where if you just laugh it off or something, it's as if their entire plan just fails. Like
yeah,
it just yeah, it goes to smithereens.
yeah.
So good stuff. But how did you learn that? How did you learn to brush things off? When did that start to take place in you?
Um, Honestly, I don't know. I think it was just I used to be like super shy and like in just public settings if I didn't know anyone, it was like me in the corner on my phone. But I was a business major at U of H and I went to a case competition for KPMG. Like we won at the school, so they sent us to regionals or whatever. And that's where I was doing that with like the in the corner on my phone and some of the what are they called? Like I guess counselors or advisors for the other schools. Like they brought me in and like just they introduced me to people and like I just learned that day uh how to start the process of being more confident and outgoing, even if like it's an uncomfortable situation. So I think that helped. And then for instance, just I keep bringing things back to Islam, but like that's what I like to base my lifestyle around. Is Sheikh Walid gave a lecture 2 3 weeks ago at Jummah. He said actually it wasn't Sheikh Walid, it was Sheikh Ammar. He gave a lecture about how when you don't make fun of your friends. And so one of the examples he gave was he had two friends in college where one of them would always get made fun of and the other one wouldn't. And the difference between these two individuals was that the first one, he would start the joke about himself. So he would insult himself and he would bring himself down and be like, "Oh, I'm not even all that," or "I'm so dumb," or "I'm so stupid," or "Oh, I look so ugly today." And then people would just feed on that and build on those jokes. But then the other guy, he wouldn't insult himself like that. And if someone did insult him, he would say, "Hey, I'm not okay with that joke," or "Okay, let's relax. Let's not go too far." And then the person would also other person would all like obviously get defensive, but in the future they wouldn't make that joke again. And so I think that's one thing is when you have self-confidence in yourself, other people will pick up on that and realize, hey, this isn't someone you can really mess with. And I like that example Sheikh Amar used at Jummah.
I like that example too. I heard him give that speech one time,
Yeah.
and yeah, it was one of the best ones I'd heard from him. But just one more thing I wanted to mention about like brushing things off and like kind of laughing it off is in a way, it also helps in not taking things personally. At least that's how I
Yeah.
see it. It can, it
100%.
can. But another thing I wanted to talk to you about was when I was reflecting on my own college experience,
Mhm.
what I realized was I learned so much more from the people around me than I did from the institution itself. But I'm curious what that's like for you in medical school and if you would use the same way to describe it or something else.
Mm, so I'm not gonna lie. I think for me, I agree with the college thing. So I learned so much about different like diversity, and it helps with U of H being the second most diverse campus. So that helps a lot.
What's the
But
first most?
it's the first now?
No,
Really?
I'm curious. What's the first one? Do you
Oh,
know?
I don't. I just remember in
Okay.
orientation they told me it was the second most. I think it's some
Interesting.
Eastern University, yeah. So on the
Mm.
East Coast. Um, but I think or med school is the opposite, and that we're actually a lot more similar. And I haven't learned. The only things I've learned from my classmates is, wow, I also do this. Like it's something so niche or something I thought was so unique to me, but other med schools all end up doing, or med students all end up doing it, just because we're in this high stress environment of studying and working, that we all end up developing the same habits that make us. Just either save time or be efficient or whatever. So actually, I think it's the opposite for med school, and I learned we're a lot more similar. The only differences I'd say is in personalities, and I think that's good because that's how you get surgeons versus psychiatrists. Like for me personally, I could never do surgery, but I appreciate the fact that there are personalities in my cohort that would want to go do surgery because we need surgeons. And so that's the only diversity I would say is the personalities going towards different specialties. Otherwise, I think we're a lot, me and my fellow med students are a lot more similar baseline, just because like you need to have the sort of baseline that we have. You need to have that baseline to even survive these treacherous waters of med school.
Treacherous waters.
Yeah.
I wanted to give a shout out to you because um, something that would sometimes get to me a little bit was this idea of jinxing and bad omens. But you had shared this app with me. It's called I think it's the Dicker app.
Mm.
And there was like a very specific dua on there about jinxing and bad omens. And it was the idea that we don't believe in that. We don't
Yeah,
believe in that. Everything happens through God. And I
exactly.
remember reading that, and it was so liberating for me. So I
Good.
wanted to give a shout out to you for that because it's like, wow, I really needed that in my life.
Alhamdulillah.
It's cool, cool stuff. Do you
Yeah, no.
have? Go ahead.
And, and like you said, the things happen for a reason. It's three responses for dua. It's either you get it now, or you get something better later, or you get it on the day of judgment, which is the best.
You
But
got
we,
chopped out again. I'm so sorry.
oh, sorry. It's just like it's a reference to earlier. Everything
Yeah,
happens for a reason, and that's what the three answers to dua is that you either get it now, you get it later, or with something better, or you get it on the day of judgment, which is the best option, but we just don't know that yet. So I think that's one thing to always remember.
yeah. And in every one of those cases, you just got to watch the grass grow, eh?
Exactly, the sabr.
Patience.
Oh, that's what
Yeah,
I'm saying.
sober.
Exactly.
Yeah. Um, I'm curious, Omayr. I had fun with this conversation. You said a lot of things that I really learned from. Like this was good stuff, man.
Good. Alhamdulillah.
Do you have a specific dua that you're really attracted to these days?
These days, and for the next 6 weeks, it would probably be my step two score. I gotta, inshallah, score. I'm shooting for a really high score, just so you know, shoot for the stars so you can land on the moon or whatever. But even if I land in the stars, that would also be really helpful for my residency app. But otherwise, just because I'm at the age of like you start your own family. So for me, probably my top three. Actually, I have a lot of dua. I told you I make a lot of dua. So my du'as right now is probably just like my step two score and matching into a good residency, uh, having a blessed marriage with my future wife with amazing Muslim children. That's the biggest thing, and then health for my parents, and then for my brothers too, because I know the youngest he just graduated high school. He graduates on Tuesday. He wants to go to med school, so Allah make it easy for him the whole route, and then for my brother who's in comp sci, and you know how comp sci is these days, that Allah give him job stability. So those are probably my big four, I'd say. I don't really, and then of course, our brothers and sisters in Palestine and Yemen and Syria and Kashmir and China and Sudan, all of them.
Do you have a dua list? I remember that's something that I started creating and it was really helpful. Because as I mentioned before, I recognize that it's so powerful to sit down and think about what you really want, and having that list was vital for me.
Yeah. Yeah, so of course, I have those, the ones just mentioned, those five that I just have in my head for the habitual reciting, because keep du'as, keep dhikr on the tongue, keep the tongue wet with du'as and dhikr. And so those are those five that I keep my tongue wet with. But otherwise, I do have a list that I created when I went to Umrah, and I just kept the list on my notes app. So if I do something big, like let's say I do a khatam, or I finish Surah Kahf on a Friday, like I'll go through that list, because there are some du'as that I that are vital, but I forget and aren't in my daily. So I do have a dua list. I just don't use it as often as I maybe should.
Yeah. Also, I remember when I first met you, you had a very interesting and unique sense of style. But I feel like from what I've seen, it's changed. Who was that person back then? What inspired that style?
I don't know. When did you meet me? I forgot. Like,
I think like spring 2022.
okay, so that's when I first started wearing nicer clothes, because before it was around June or July 2021, where before that it was just horrendous fits. Like it was, I see those pictures, I'm like, what were you thinking? But after that, it started becoming more like, okay, let me actually wear fits that like shirts and pants that match each other. And then around that, when you met me, was more of we discovered this website called Boohoo Man, where it was like oversized shirts and stuff. So that was during my Boohoo phase, where I was just like wearing all these oversized, and also my working out phase. So it was cool. It's like you're working out for a nice body, and then you like keep it concealed and with all these oversized clothes. And then later when you see it post pump or when you're showering or something, you're like, dang, that's like something I worked for. That's where the working out dopamine hits.
Billie
Um,
Eilish style, eh?
exactly. No, literally. And then I think recently it's been more so honestly, I'm like really like with my sense of style is very influenced. So like I know a few months ago I was like strictly dress clothes because I was in the middle of my suits watching phase, where I was just like, you know what, let me dress like Harvey Specter every day. And then now I'm in my comfort, like I need clothes aren't as important, so let me study, let me wear something comfy, like and later, and then put on a sweatshirt and buttons. So that's the phase I'm in right now. But yeah, I think mine's like it
Damn.
changes like so often.
Yeah, you chopped out one more time, but it's
Oh,
fine.
sorry. It's just like
It's all
it's just
good. It
yeah,
happens. It happens, you know. But yeah, man, like I said, I had fun in this conversation. This was
yeah.
cool. I'm curious, do you have any closing thoughts? Anything you felt like you wanted to say but you didn't get a chance to, or something on your mind that you wanted to express?
Honestly, not as much. I think it was a productive convo. I know I did most of the talking, so that's why I think it was a great convo. So if you have anything, any last questions or any comments, that would be great. But me personally, I think I liked how you steered the convo and I liked the flow. So I think you're doing great. And mashallah, keep this up. And if you ever need help from me for anything else, just let me know.
Yeah, no thanks, man. Alhamdulillah, and I appreciate you saying that. I don't really have much else to say either. Um, but yeah, I liked this. You said a lot of things that I'm gonna think about, man, because there's a lot to learn there, especially about the sympathetic system. You know, because something I've
Yeah.
been really interested in lately is going back to Robert Greene. He says like nobody really changes anything in their life unless they feel like there's a necessity for it. And
Hmm.
fight or flight is like that mode, like
Exactly.
necessity, focusing, locking in, you're in the mode.
Yeah.
So cool stuff to reflect on.
Good, good.
But yeah. So I suppose until next time, eh?
Yes,
Inshallah.
sir. Yeah. Let me know if you need, even outside the podcast, if you need help with anything, just let me know, brother. I got you. Of
Likewise. Likewise. All
course.
right.
It was nice talking.